So Darren's back up on consideration of the 2019 and 20 CDBG funding applicants.
Good evening, Mayor and council members once again. So this evening I'm here to speak about community development block grant funding. I actually have the same presentation that I gave last time. I see that we have a lot of new folks inside the audience. So Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll go through that. I do want to mention we do have our department analyst, Jaspreet, that's here with us, who is our CDBG specialist, who's been with the city now for about 6 months, I believe, and she's been a great addition and has learned the community development block grant funding well. I also want to mention that for many years, the funding that the council considered for CDBG came before the council on the last night that you could actually approve it and actually be able to qualify for funding. So this is the first time in many, many years since I've been at the city that there's been actually 2 council meetings now where the council members have the opportunity of discussing where these CDBG funds will go. And based upon the last council meeting, I have some additional information for you. So first, just a little background. The city of Yuba City is what is called an entitlement jurisdiction, and we receive a federal formula grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which we call HUD. And the intent of the program is really to provide decent housing, a suitable living environment, and to expand economic development or economic opportunities primarily for low and moderate income persons. And this upcoming program year, the federal government has announced that we would receive $647,714. So what is the process that the city follows? First, we send notices to all past and what we hope to be our future sub-recipients. And it's been kind of nice with our Yuba City Homeless Consortium. We actually stole a few of their emails or borrowed them and sent out information even to more service providers in the region. We held a public workshop on February 6, 2019 to discuss this year's CDBG funding. One of the goals that the City Council has mentioned is homeless and helping fund a homeless shelter, and we mentioned the importance of that. The applications were due on March 13th, and those applications were reviewed, rated, and ranked on March 18th. That was made up of staff members from Development Services, Finance, and Administration, and they make the recommendation that's before you. The next process is to finalize the action plan, and we have a 30-day public notice prior to the council's consideration of finalizing this funding. So as we go through CDBG, there's a certain percentage of funds that can be used for different type of uses. First is administration, which is the staff time that it takes to prepare the annual action plan. And also every 5 years, which this coming year is the start of it's the end of our 5th year, which we are required to do a 5-year consolidated plan for CDBG. So the recommendation is to allocate a full 20% for that, which is $130,000. The second is only 15% can be set aside for public services. The Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium was the only organization to submit an application, and they have a few other sub-recipients of theirs. As we talked about at the last council meeting, staff is recommending that half of this be set aside just in case Sutter County opens up a homeless shelter anywhere, but they're talking about it at Live Oak Boulevard. If for some reason it's determined that they're not going to do that this year, and they inform us that, all the money would then go to the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium for funding. Also, in addition, if prior to the end of the calendar year, so by the end of December of 2019, if they have not had a facility up and running or ready to go, all this funding would go to the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium, how they requested, whereas right now it's being recommended half of it be set aside for a shelter. Additionally, I will note this is, I won't say off topic, but there are funds coming through SB2 funding from the state as it relates to providing housing to the homeless. The city will be receiving $245,854.45. That money, we do not know when it'll come, but it says anywhere between the winter of 2019 and 2020. So that funding might not come in, and they can adjust those dates. So the notice of funding availability is going to come out in August. However, when we might receive those funds, we do not know. And again, that's one of the reasons why why the recommendation was to set aside half the funds. Again, it is the council's prerogative of how you'd like to allocate those funds. The second is for for projects, and we have two different types of projects. One's public facilities, and the second one is housing projects. So first, and this is where some of the discussion from our last council meeting. First was a recommendation for Freed for $15,000. This is a home repair program for disabled that they've done annually. They do an amazing job. This is everything from installing an ADA toilet or an accessible tub to handrails in some of our seniors and disabled folks' homes. The second one is actually, it's a City of Yuba City program, but is actually managed by the Regional Housing Authority, and that's what we call our Owner-Occupied Housing Rehabilitation Program. We're currently below $100,000. We like to keep that right about $100,000. We're asking for $47,501. And then finally was a request from the Regional Housing Authority, Kingwood Common, for the Kingwood's Common project, and it was recommended to give $60,000. This is where the discussion was mainly at our last council meeting of do you provide funding or not provide funding to this project of the Housing Authority. We did look into low mod housing funds to see if they could be used for this. And low mod housing funds cannot be used for just general maintenance of a building. It can be used for maintenance of a building if they're about ready to lose their 55-year or their 30-year deed-restricted affordable housing covenant. And then finally, for public facilities, there's a request from Public Works and the Parks Department. Recommended was $200,000 for ADA sidewalks and $100,000 for the Sam Brannan playground replacement. If the City Council would like to fund these fully, to do the $210,000 for ADA improvements and the $160,000 for Sam Brannan playground replacement, the staff would recommend reducing the owner-occupied housing program by $10,000 and the Regional Housing Authority by the $60,000, if that was the direction of the City Council, and fully fund the two requests by the city. At this time, I could answer any questions of the City Council. I know that we have a variety of recipients that are here. At the last council meeting, it was requested that we inform all of our applicants about this council meeting, and I see that we have a few of them here.
Any comments?
Through the mayor, Mr. Gale, on the $97,500, which half was going to go towards the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium, and then there was a time certain, and if the homeless shelter wasn't put in, let me rephrase this: if the homeless shelter isn't constructed, then all the money goes to the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium, and it appeared, or it sounded like there was a deadline.
Correct. So it would have to be, something would have to be done by the end of this calendar year, by the end of December of 2019.
Is that imposed by us, or is that imposed by some regulation?
So this was staff's recommendation because if we don't spend the funds as placed in our action plan, then there's a possibility that we could lose funds for the following year. We believe that with 6 months, that would obviously provide the Yuba Center Homeless Consortium plenty of time to expend those dollars. Also, it's my understanding that the county is obviously working on this homeless shelter, and that their goal is to have it up and running by the end of summer is what they're saying. And I know that the City Council and Board of Supervisors will be having a joint meeting. But that date can really move, council member. It was staff recommendation. I wouldn't recommend going too much farther past that because I think someone would have a difficult time expending the funds in a timely manner.
That was going to be my question. If they missed it by a month or something, just because of unforeseen circumstances, do we have the latitude to hold on to that and provide that funding for the homeless shelter? That's all.
Yes, we do. And also, hopefully by that time, we'll have an understanding of when the SB2 funds will be coming to the city. But today, we really don't, other than HUD has said late winter of 2019 or early 2020.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
So there's two parts in this where you're asking us if the additional funding for, can you go into, I think it is the next slide or previous slide. Thank you.
Yep, there you go.
So if we were to fund the public facility improvements, we would need to reduce 60,000 of the regional housing authority. Is that what you're saying?
So the question last time was not funding the Kingwood common roofing and fully funding the city request.
Okay. Now back to the homeless consortium. To reduce it half, because that's what's being done, is the 97,000, right? Reducing half, that would reduce the half of the services currently provided by the individuals that are trying to reduce the homeless issue. So how is there an impact? Is there going to be an impact on those services based on reducing it by half?
Yes, there would be an impact on those services.
And have you received any information from the group itself to say what potential impact would be by deciding to reduce it half for now? Or could we, if we were to receive the SB2 funds, utilize some of those funds for the shelter?
You can. So the question is we just don't know when those funds will be coming. You could also use general fund dollars if you wanted to pay for the operations of the facility. I know there's a lot of funding out there for the actual construction and building of the facility. However, the operational side is the difficult side. And in the past, the city council has said, hey, let's use CDBG funds for that. But this is really the council gets to make this determination. Based upon the information we received, we thought what we were providing at least gave some time to be able to determine if there would be a homeless shelter built in Yuba City and if there would be needs for operations for it. We would send those monies through the homeless consortium either way. So half the dollars are being set aside, but the assumption is that we would give it to the homeless consortium and then they would give it to, I believe, the discussion is with the Salvation Army possibly running the temporary homeless shelter on Live Oak Boulevard.
Correct. So then if that, without even knowing when they're going to break ground, it's just, I think it's really, us trying to forecast, the breaking ground, development, and then operations, because that's almost the last part of it, correct, to this whole process, sheltering.
Yes.
So it could, in theory, it could be sometime next year when operations, because the building has to occur first. So in theory, the building probably wouldn't be ready sometime in 2020.
Yeah, according to my conversations with Neil over at Sutter County, who's their Director of Development Services and Public Works, he says that as soon as he gets the okay, he'll be going down to Home Depot, hopefully to purchase tough sheds like they've done in Yuba County, or possibly purchasing tents. Didn't sound like it was going to be a permanent structure that they're proposing, but you are correct. We do not know. It's pure speculation at this time.
So the operations of the services would be in some sort of trailer? Are they planning to bring in a trailer, park it, and that's their operation services?
At this time, I do not know, but these are good questions that I can make sure that when the joint city council board of supervisors meeting is, we could ask the county to maybe give us some insight of what they're proposing.
Yeah, that would be helpful to know how they're planning to do their actual operations services, because we're not, and knowing the current providers, they're doing services now. There's no needing to gear up to get it going. They're doing it now. So I kind of feel like we have other monies potentially come in. We could possibly fund that 50,000, whatever, to the operations of the shelter, because I think we can contribute, but maybe not through these particular funds.
Yeah, once we have a definitive answer from the state on our SB2 funds, we'll be back for the city council to get direction on where you'd like those dollars spent.
Thank you.
The mayor.
Yes.
But that won't be till August, correct?
So the notice of funding availability is supposed to be posted August, and then they said award will be late 20 or winter of 2019 or 2020. My assumption is it'll be 2020, based upon some of the other funding that's come down for these type of projects.
Okay.
And again, this just gives you a variety of options to be able to choose from. However, we do need to know tonight so that we can finalize that action plan and be back before you in a month to be able to secure our federal CDBG funds.
So what's in front of us, this is the amount requested and what staff's recommending.
Correct, and then you can make any changes you'd like to.
Okay. I'll wait
And
for the comment. There's people talking. I'll wait.
You good?
There's going to be some people talking. I'll wait.
Okay, through the mayor. Mr. Gill, I'll own up to it. I'm the one that started this whole conversation last time. Going through the budgetary process that we've begun, I think the mayor and myself have a really big understanding that there is a ton of needs in this community and there is only so much money. When I look at this, I'm looking at ways to impact the most people, get our biggest bang for our buck, but yet we've got projects that we have to take care of. You know, go down to your next slide, please, when you talk about Kingwood. Going through the reports, this has been an ongoing problem. They have fixed, Gus, correct me, I believe this is building 8 of 9 or 9 of 9, 8 of 9. Okay, I appreciate it. I met with Gus and we've had a great conversation. I've got a pretty good understanding of their needs. It's not something that crept up on us. So back to, we can't use the money you referred to earlier, but is there another pool of money that is restricted and can only be used for these types of projects that we can pull from to take care of that need of $60,000? That's my first question. Do you want these sequentially or do you want to tackle them one at a time? Because I have about a half a dozen.
So let me answer each one so I don't
Okay.
forget. Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So basically we're looking at...
Of city funds, your question, correct?
Yeah, money that we have in our coffers that we could give RHA to help with the $60,000.
Other than your general fund, no.
Okay, let's go down to the next slide, please. The idea that I had and the idea I put forward was taking care of our playground equipment first, funding the full 160 at San Brannon, because if you're going to do something, you need to do it right. And we have multiple buildings over at the Kingwood, but when you look at the multiplier of how many people use San Brannon Park, we get more bang for our buck and affect more people by taking care of San Brannon Park than we do Kingwood. So to me, the playground equipment is a priority. And I know that Mr. McIntyre, we've had conversations that we need to make sure we have, ADA compliant and assistance. Right now we have one ADA compliant swing set down at Gap. And it'd be nice to have them throughout the city so that we are ADA friendly to handicapped kids in the area. I did never ask for the full funding for the sidewalks, and the proposal you sent us, it went up to fully fund the 210 and was pulling from other things. Mine was simply take the 60 from Kingwood, give it to San Brannon, and do that flip-flop. Is there any other sources that we can pull funds to take care of our ADA that would be earmarked for that? I know that we pulled the ramps off of the project earlier. What other sources of funds do we have to possibly take care of that? I want to get to the end of taking care of Kingwood if we can. We've got residents there that need a safe roof over their head. But I have a lot of people that use the park, and we have a lot of ADA ramps. So what other sources do we have? If we were to take the 60 from the ADA here and move it over to San Brandon, do they have another avenue to pull in an extra 70,000 from somewhere else? And that may be a question for Mr. Moody or our city manager.
Yes, I can address that. We have road funds through gas tax. We also have TDA funds. So, recognizing we have limited resources, we have more resources than are available through this program. So we could deduct the money from the ADA sidewalk project and put that towards, to allow this money to be put towards San Brandon.
Okay. To me, that would be more doable because we're taking care of a need and spending time with Gus and talking to him. I understand that, like I said before, he inherited a mess and he's fixing it. And they're going to be solvent as, if I can have at liberty what I told Gus when we met, I really don't want to see you in 12 months in front of me asking to fix another roof because they need to get financially sound. And they're working on it. So at the council's pleasure, I would like to fully fund that playground equipment and take care of our children in this community and reach into another coffer and pull 70,000 out to take care of our ADA sidewalks. That would be my recommendation.
All right, that sounds like a motion, and we're not quite there yet, so hold that for a second. Anybody from the public would like to comment? Yes, Kaya.
Hi, my name is Kaya Galicia. I am a board member for the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium and the secretary for that organization. On behalf of the board, I want to say thank you for your contributions throughout the many years to support the consortium. And in the last couple of years, the council has shown faith in our agency to kind of funnel the homeless services dollars through the agency so that we could coordinate and deduplicate and prioritize services for our homeless folks. The consortium some of our consortium members have participated with the Bi-County Homeless Services Group to develop a strategic plan to address homelessness. And that plan included 3 priorities: prevention, development of additional shelter beds and permanent housing, and creating safe and informed communities. In our point in time count that was done earlier this year, 512 people were identified as sleeping outdoors. So the additional shelter beds are necessary. And as has been mentioned already, the operational dollars are limited. And so one of the things that we're hoping that the council will do is find, not just your council, jurisdictionally, we'll find some support to funnel some more funding for shelter beds and the development of permanent housing as well. So that's what I wanted to say. So thank you again for your support, and hopefully there will be creative ways to find resources to fund all of the shelter beds that are being developed and have been in operation for years and years. So thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. Anybody else in the public? Very good.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Anna Ogren, and I work at Freed. I wanted to take this opportunity simply to thank you for the funding that you've provided for the home modification program. It is a big need in the community, and we are honored to continue to meet that need. I also would like to address this ADA sidewalk need. I understand that you have some other funding to provide those ADA accessibility, and I'm glad to hear that because that is also very important. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? John, you talking or? Okay.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. John Nicoletti, 1915 Bolton Way, Marysville. I'm up here with Habitat for Humanity and the Homeless Consortium effort. I just want to mention, in the last couple of years, we have been identifying a clear trend of moving our numbers in the right direction for a homeless community. And I think through our efforts at the Coordinated Entry site, we are solving homelessness. 79 people in the last 16 months have been placed in permanent housing. We've never allowed women and children to come into the center because we immediately house them. There's been great job placement and continuing services. That's really a focused effort, and it's kind of a reverse paradigm of government services. Government goes to where the people are and fixes them exactly where they're at. You also have an announcement today from the governor wanting to establish a new task force to work with local communities to really bring many more resources. This is that time. This is when it's happening that we've dealt with the tipping point of homelessness, and we're actually addressing it and meeting it where it's at. We're solving homelessness, but the solution is just not near as big as the problem. And so as soon as we get balanced in that, we're going to see a community that immediately reflects a cleaner, safer environment. And just to really encourage you to not hold back on funding that the consortium can use to really keep its pace where it's at. It's fixing the issue. Thanks.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor, do you have a comment? You wanted to wait till the end?
I'm pretty good. I'm good. Thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yes.
And Darren, were you going to continue? You're just available for any more questions?
Available for any questions, but I did fail to mention something. With CDBG, it really requires partners, these service providers, and the reporting requirements can be burdensome. And I can just tell you, the folks that are here in the room do just a yeoman's job. The city, I think, was the first jurisdiction to actually provide funding to the Yuba City Homeless Consortium, and to see where they are today is absolutely amazing. But everyone that's being recommended for funding has been a great partner for many years, and meeting HUD's requirements for reporting are not easy, and it's because of these folks that provide those information to us on a timely basis that makes it a very easy on our staff too.
Very good.
I do have a question.
Now we do have a comment by the Vice Mayor here.
Yeah. Hey, John, by any chance, sir, can you go up to, I got a question for you, sir. Sorry. I should have caught you while you were up there. On the cure for homelessness, which is a challenge every day, the question I have, the comment was made, we're trying to get the most bang for the buck. Do you think that if we gave the full $97,000 to consortium, that we would get more bang for the buck than saving, half and half for the shelter here and for you? Would you think we'd get more bang for the buck given it all? Because it's not just for you. You're passing it out to many groups. We just used one to spread the wealth. You think we'll get more bang for the buck giving you the full amount, and then we could work on the shelter issue, 2020?
So it would be my impression that you'll get full value out of that dollar because they leverage it against other dollars, and they've got a lot of data that they deliver that really reinforces how that is spent and what the results truly are. The interesting thing to me to witness at the street level is that you run into a couple of homeless guys. I call them the Friskies. They're over on Plymouth Street, have been for a long time. Tried to respond to some calls to get over there and help them. And I called the usual list of good guys in town, John Flo, Kaya, all of our folks in Sutter County. Everybody knows these guys. We're spending tons of effort, but we just need to pluck them up and put them in a place. They need housing first. And if we start there, they don't want to cause trouble. They've got pocketfuls of trespassing tickets. It's frustrating for law enforcement. It's frustrating for the fire department. I think that this is a much more affordable approach to fixing a community-wide problem. We're by not addressing it head on, by not keeping it as funded as we can, we're instead leaving it to the emergency room and the jails to take care of it. And those are the two most expensive places to house people. And so we've just seen a much better trend going the other way. And just one of my favorite stats in this whole business is if folks go through, if it's a drug and alcohol issue, if folks go through the Salvation Army 24-week program, 9 out of 10 never return to homelessness. It's a straight up stat that's in your face. If you can't buy that and like that, I don't know what's going to fix it. But I do want to say thank you to Darren. You're absolutely right. The reporting on this one is a juggernaut. It's oftentimes not worth applying because it's too much work. There's no pay that covers all the strings that go into this mess. So thank you, HUD, but thanks for mentioning that because that is a perpetual headache, and you're being honest. So
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Actually, through the mayor, John, please.
John.
Mr. Nicoletti, I need both you and Mr. Gale back to the podium. I was trying to catch you, sir. Mr. Gale, the first question is just confirming from this report at the last meeting. Go back to the section with the consortium, please. I believe it was the 15%. That's the allotment that we're allowed for that section. That's where they fall. We're doing the full 15.
Correct. That's the maximum you can do for public services.
Okay. John, you may or may not be the person to answer this, but I'll start with you. What we're faced with, and I think the thinking behind this is you guys are doing a lot of good things. The county is trying to solve things with a shelter, and they're going to be looking at the city, and they're going to be looking to everyone else to help with this problem. What is the consortium going to do? Have they been approached by the county to contribute as well? Are you going to be contributing? If we earmarked through what are you doing if this homeless shelter goes? Are you going to be a participant and a contributor to this as well?
Absolutely. So what you see in those environments is a model through coordinated entry. And I guess if you want to get back to the future, just take a look at the Life Building Center in Marysville right now. There's 21 different partners in there. You have everything from drug and alcohol reduction to job skills training. We have job temp companies in there. Adventist is doing street nursing. There were 2 nurses in there this afternoon. CRLA was in there helping people navigate some of their legal issues or even just identifications. The county helps with restoring Social Security benefits. So people really aren't just sitting around like they're in a Starbucks getting coffee they don't pay for. They're expected to participate and involve and engage, and it's measured with those folks. Hands of Hope does a great job, but really I think when you see the benefits of that, we can see how we plus each other. Not one person pulls the whole cart. So we're absolute essential partners with with affordable housing. Housing is the secret sauce to this whole thing. We got to get people off the street, period.
Right. And I appreciate that. And trust me, we all want to solve the homeless problem. And what we're all seeking is long-term sustainable solutions, not short-term fixes. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that. And I expect you guys to be that involved in a shelter with a central entry point and providing services. But more of what I was concerned with, are you going to be putting monetary, are you going to be giving $100,000 to the shelter, or is it just going to be you're going to be there with services? I'm just trying to get a bearing of what's going. There's only so much money to go around, and they're looking at us, and we're trying to give to the homeless and help solve the problem. And I'm just wondering, are you guys giving a big check to the county as well, or is it just going to be in kind services?
So it's sort of a strange and loose answer is the best I can give. What I've witnessed is that the answer, and the short answer is yes, but how we do it. So, for example, a particular homeless couple don't really abide by the municipal barriers or boundaries where they choose to sleep at night. They just want to be where it's safe, where they don't get beat up, where they don't get their stuff taken. So
I think her answer is coming right there.
Smart version.
I think she's getting to what I'm hucking the big checks that you can only take to really big banks, with letters this tall. Are you guys going to write a check to the homeless shelter, or is it going to be in-kind services?
So yes, we will be writing a check to the Sutter County Shelter Project.
And do you have an idea of what your check's going to look like?
So I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I know that they have applied for what is HEAP. It's called HEAP. The consortium received almost $1.3 million for HEAP, and so part of that is going towards the Sutter County Shelter. And then we also received dollars from CASH, the California Emergency Shelter and Housing, and they have the Salvation Army has applied for that money for the shelter operations at Sutter County Shelter. So yes.
No percentage, no guesstimation. I'm just really looking for a number.
So for operations, it was $450,000.
Yeah, 450.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There you go. Oh, we got Joe coming up.
Hello, my name is Joseph Hale with Habitat for Humanity. I did want to piggyback off of some of what was just said. One of the things that we as charities do, we never exactly know what we'll have available because everything is grant-based. So what the goal is, and this is a typical of our organization, is every time we receive grant funding or community funding, we try to match that or even go further if we can. So if we can generate $25,000, for instance, we partner with City of Yuba City to do a home repair program. We can typically leverage, we'll get 25 through the program we have with the City of Yuba City. We'll leverage that for another 50,000 and then probably even 100,000 in gifts in kind. So we can sometimes even quadruple the amount of money that goes into it if we can receive the funding, because one of the big parts of doing grants, and this is something we'll probably talk about a little bit later, I know with the Housing Authority, is the more money we can get locally, we can even match it for bigger dollars outside of here, and it makes us far more competitive in our ability to get funding and bring it into the community. Because one of the things you mentioned was not having enough money to do all the things that need to be done. And how we can come into that in many ways is if we can get some funding, we can use it to leverage a lot more funding that comes from outside of the community into the community. And I think that can make a real big difference for what we can make happen. So our goal is definitely every time you give us $1, if we can turn that into $4 or $5, that's something we work very hard and diligently to try to do. So I just want to mention that. Thank you.
All right, well, one more comment.
Looks like there's a lot of subject matter experts in the room. So this is a question or / concern that I have, which is, where are we at with actually providing a temporary shelter? So those folks who are camping out, for instance, on down by Peach Bowl Little League by the airport, I mean, how far away are we from getting them to some temporary housing so that we can begin to address a concern that our constituents bring to us almost daily?
So Councilmember Baumgarten, as she comes up, I will let you know of a recent conversation that the county called and asked us. They asked us about what would be the requirement for a use permit for that area. A county is not required to follow our local jurisdictional rules, but it was a question that they asked a few weeks ago. We told them what the process would be. They've yet to get back to us if they want to do that or not. I think that they were hoping to wait till the joint meeting to have a discussion with the city council at that time.
So I apologize in advance because I don't know the answer to your question, and I'm not sure if anybody is here tonight from Sutter County to be able to answer that question. That is it. I believe you're speaking specifically about the Sutter County shelter.
Well, we can't do anything as a city. Our law enforcement officers cannot move anybody off of public land until we somehow get a temporary shelter in our community. So it is a community problem, and we're a part of that community. And even though I've mentioned the 2nd Street as an issue, it's something that's throughout Yuba City. So that's just where my interest is. And like I said, I'm happy to have you guys here, as much more knowledgeable than I, to hopefully provide me with a little bit of feedback about where we're at with this process. Because as it relates to the money for the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium and what staff has recommended so that there is some money for the temporary shelter, I support that. I support anything that we can do to expedite getting this temporary shelter in our community. I know that's not the whole issue or the whole answer to a homeless issue, but it is something that I think we need to going on as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. So I will say that there's some regional efforts happening. So between Yuba County and Sutter County, Marysville and Yuba City, we're working on some ordinances that will be adopted regionally to be able to compassionately enforce some not necessarily no camping, but other ways to help people, to give people some sort of incentive to get off the street. And by providing shelter, then you can enforce the ordinance. And without the shelter, without additional shelter beds, there will be, it's very difficult to enforce. But as I said, that's just one piece of the puzzle. There's several things happening all at once to be able to address that, so that we can enforce and get people off the streets. It's my understanding that Sutter County is moving very quickly, and that the Board of Supervisors is very interested in making that happen very quickly.
Appreciate your answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Councilman, if I may, so the Ninth Circuit established that you have to have a bed for each person you enforce with. And at the Life Building Center, we're reaching phase 2. We're adding 26 beds. We were cleared for takeoff last council meeting in Marysville. We think that'll quickly fill up because we're near the emergency room. And we actually sort of presume that we're going to leave a certain amount of beds for Adventists, a certain amount of beds for law enforcement, and then see what we have available for those that just walk up. We haven't done this before, so we know that we've had about 1,200 referrals in the 16 months that we've been open. So if that happens in a 24-hour period, which I don't really think it will, once they settle in, they settle in. Really, the game is a bed, housing. So what regional housing is doing is a critical key. Yuba County has put its total No Place Like Home initial budgets that way to help make that happen. We've already made as many efforts as we can with what's available and local funding. We're underway. We're funded. We're doing it. We're building it. But it's just really a race. I think the solution is here. It's just not as big as the problem. And so as soon as we get to that size, desperation will disappear. I think we'll find a much better community.
Thank you, John.
Very good. Okay, hold on a second.
So, Mayor Harris, on May 31st at 9 a.m. is the Joint City Council Board of Supervisors workshop. At that meeting, county staff will actually be providing an update on their current shelter project and where they are and what their plans are. They will also be providing a presentation on what current services they're providing to the homeless in Center County. I also believe we'll probably be hearing from Kaya a little bit about her project that she manages also.
All right. Anything further? All right, so
Would you like a recommendation for the direction at this time? Mr.
motion
Mayor?
is what we're looking for. Is that what you're talking
Mr.
about?
Mayor, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but at this time, I would just close public comment and then bring it back to the council.
Did I even open public comment?
Yes.
All right. I don't remember. All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council.
Okay.
So we have from what I understand, on the talk up here, we're going to have 2 separate motions. So we just do them one at a time. How about if we discuss what you're going to move for clarification purposes?
Okay.
All right.
So
Let's start with on the end here.
Sorry?
I can take it section by section. Mr. Gell, if you'll start at the top, as you presented tonight, leaving 20% administration as is, leaving the 15% as is with the holdback. The next section, the 65% as is, and my adjustment would be to reduce the $200,000 for the ADA down to $140 and fully fund Parks and Rec for the playground equipment. That would be my recommendation.
So the consortium is going to get the full 97.5, what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Then I don't need to say mine. That's
So
what I was gonna
basically,
say.
it's
Yeah. Said it for me.
option number 1, but we're taking, I believe you said 60,000
$60,000.
off of the ADA and
Yes, sir.
funding it elsewhere. We're still funding it, but from somewhere else.
We're going to fund it from a different source through
Right.
SB1 money.
All right. Is that a clear enough motion for you, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
All right, that is for me too. Anybody care to comment or second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. Thank you. Thank you very much, Darren.
Thank the rest of you for being here and providing the information too.
Absolutely, it was very helpful.
Yes, thank
Very
you.
helpful.